Welcome to San Sebastian World Cup round 6 in the series. We've been broken from the early part of the season by the big tours of Spain, the Tour of Italy and the Tour de France. Now the riders are back in the Classic season. We've got the San Sebastian Classic here for you on Eurosport, covering 238 kilometres in all. This is the San Sebastian Classic then, which dates back to 1981, a fairly new event on the calendar. I'm very pleased to have here in the commentary box with me Stephen Roche, who's ridden this race in the past and has had one or two problems in it. We'll talk about that later on, Stephen, but today these hot conditions, 30 degrees, I mean, suddenly they're back in the Classic season after the tours. There must be some very tired legs out there at the moment.
There's a very, very difficult way to restart the second half of the season, or the third half of the season, because normally one half goes to the Tour de France, then you have a second half of the Tour de France, and then you have the third of the season, which starts off with the Clásica of San Sebastian. And it's a very hard period, because normally after the Tour de France, normally you're very, very relaxed and you try to ride a couple of criteriums and you try to wind down. And it's the first kind of wake-up call you get to the end of the season, so it's a very, very hard Classic. That's why normally it doesn't really get going until you hit this last hill here, Esquivel, which is a very, very hard hill. It's really basically the only difficulty of the day.
And the man who's made the decisive move at the moment on your screen then, Armand DE LAS CUEVAS, coming into this race having won the Tour of Burgos. He's in fine form, and yes, he's broken away from the chasing group. We've had a lot of action so far today. Let me put you in the picture that after 55 kilometres of racing, 14 men went away. They had a lead, a maximum lead of 4 minutes on the main field. They lasted over 100 kilometres. As we look at this group now coming up towards DE LAS CUEVAS, let me take you through those names. What a roll call it was too. Pascal Richard was there. Robert Miller, yes, Miller was in the breakaway group, together with Tchmil, the leader on the World Cup Series at the moment. Then Den Bakker, Virenque, Boberik, Bortolami, Larsen, Stevenson, Ribeiro, Zen, Home, Krausol and Poulnikov, and those 14 riders were finally caught after 155 kilometres of racing. We're now going up the Esquivel. At the top of the climb, they will have covered 206 kilometres in this 238 kilometre race, and once they're over the top, it's not all that easy either. So the field then has got some cracking riders in it, but the man who's in the lead at the moment, Armand DE LAS CUEVAS, opening up a sizable gap, and he really is betting himself here. He came out the Tour de France, he was invalid out, he won the Tour of Burgos. Sorry about the breakup pictures, by the way, but this is a fine performance. It is.
It's a great performance by DE LAS CUEVAS. He unfortunately left the Tour de France earlier than expected because he had a very, very bad bronchitis and was going downhill as the race went on, so he ended up stopping, and he came back in great form, then winning the Tour of Burgos there last week, winning 2 stages on the way. But today he's timed his effort very, very correctly, because he waited until the group of 14 riders were caught just 5-10 kilometers away from the foot of Esquivel, and once the group then hit Esquivel, he just took off like a bomb, like he did the right thing really. And as you can see, like, it's amazing. Like, for me, his riding is the finish is finishing on the top of Esquivel, because you must remember, once you go over the top of Esquivel, there is still one more climb to go, and there's still another 30, maybe not 30, but 25 kilometers to the finish. So looking at him riding here, he's like a man possessed. He's like as if he's riding to the finish on top of the Esquivel. So hopefully he's keeping a little bit of energy to help him go to the finish.
But it's a long climb, isn't it?
It's a very long climb, but the top half starts flattening out a little bit, and it's going up in false flats. They normally get a crosswind and going up towards the last 2 kilometers. So it's, as you can see here now on the screen here, the average in gradient is 5.4%, but there is a 9% in gradient on it, about halfway up it, and you can see then that the final part of it then goes up a little bit less steeper, up a little bit steeper, and the final kilometre or so is like a false flat. So, but normally in this false flat, normally you have a crosswind, and if you haven't got a little bit something left in the legs, it's it can normally pay its toll then.
Well, in with a chance there. We can see Armstrong sat down there together. It looks like one of your teammates, Poulnikov, going away there. Say ex-teammates, yeah. Who now retired. And Zula was down there as well. Still some good riders packed in here.
Yeah, that's actually Miceli. Poulnikov was there earlier on in the early break, so he's been caught. So I'm sure he hasn't got a lot of reserves left. But this is Miceli, who is a second-year professional now with the Carrera team. Hasn't shown much potential, much kind of much good in the professional so far, but he was a very, very good amateur, and Carrera, of course, have a lot of hope in him for the future. The same as Pontani. We saw Pontani in the Tour de France this year, who was also a teammate of Miceli in the Tour of Italy 3 years ago as an amateur. So Miceli, unfortunately, is not as good as Pontani, but who knows, he's still young.
And De Las Cuevas on the front here. Well, the whole of France were right behind him in the Tour when he was riding so well before he was out with illness, but he's come back with a bang now in fine form, and he really is putting the pressure on. You were talking then about these new riders coming in. Look at the gap now, back to the group which contains Furlan at the moment, and your new hope from Carrera as well. But another young lad they've drafted into this race in the Carrera team, by the way, is that young Scavina, who's like a first-year pro, and he's already started winning races.
He has, yeah. Carrera seems to be very, very lucky. They don't take many big names in the teams normally, but normally they're very good at making big names. Like they made, I had my great year there. Vicentini had a great year there. Chiappucci had a couple of great years. Pontani, Zimmermann, now Pontani, and what have you. So they're very, very good for making good riders.
And there we are. That's the main pack, as you can see. The world champion Armstrong in the middle is one. Couple of Once riders up there, led by Zuller with the yellow crash hat. The Mappe team as well, looking right up towards the front. So still some very good riders in this pack, hoping to get away. One man who has started today, but we haven't seen much of him, Mauricio Fondres, back in action after problems with his disc when he had to have the operation. He came back a bit too soon. A bit of attack coming on here from the Banesto team. They've got Indurain in the main group at the moment. The news, by the way, from the camp, the Banesto camp, is Indurain is definitely going to set his sights on the world hour record. Once this race is over and done with, he's going off to the track at Bordeaux. They tried to say, well, let's do it at San Sebastian. It looked like he's going to camp out at Bordeaux and start special training on a very special bike with an unusual position to try and have a crack at the record held by Graham Aubrey. But he's in the race today, is Indurain. He's looking possibly to ride the World Time Trial Championship, where Bourbon has certainly got his sights set on that one, but only in certain conditions will he go down to the World Championship. He may well ride it, but he's not going to ride the road, according to press. He's going to try and get the hour record back. So a new role for Miguel Indurain, who we haven't seen up at the front of this pack, so perhaps he decided just to coast on some lower gears and not bust a gut, because this is a very hot day, 30 degrees, and it's been a very, very fast race all the way through. But I remember a couple of years ago, Stephen, we couldn't cover this part of the race because the rain was coming down, the helicopters couldn't fly, and you and the rest rode through some tremendous thunderstorms.
Well, it was, I remember that very, very well. It was 38 degrees starting the stage, and we all had our new bikes and everything else, new wheels and what have you. And we started at Jesky Bell, and it started raining, and all of a sudden it started thundering and lightning. And as the race got on, the rain was so heavy there was about 3 inches of water on the road. And of course, my memory of the race was I was in the front with Alcalá and Chiappucci, and coming down the hill, my brakes failed because of my being on new rims and being so much water on the road. I had no brakes, and I hit a wall, so I ended up getting 6 stitches in my head and going by the finish line in the ambulance. But today now, lucky enough, it's very, very good weather here, 30 odd degrees, and very, very dry. So the riders, of course, it's a great race to start off with after the Tour de France and after the criteriums which come after the Tour de France, because it's the first real serious race, 238 kilometres. It's a great run, and it gives them plenty of the early part of the race being flat and relatively flat, gives them plenty of time to get run in, and normally it gives a great final. You see the motorbikes are kind of getting in De Las Cuevas' way here, and we think.
And of course, a massive crowd in Spain. It's really a #1 sport as far as the Spaniards are concerned, very much because not only of Miguel Indurain now, but Pedro Delgado, who was originally down to race today, but has not actually started. They got a replacement in his place. And there's somebody sliding off the right-hand side. They're beginning to thin down this little group, and one man just plopped off the front. They've got the yellow service car behind that group. It's Della-Santa too. You see the Basque flag in the background. The Basques then cheering on. But at the moment, we've got a Frenchman in the lead who's got a very Spanish-sounding name, De Las Cuevas. And here, a young up-and-coming Italian, Della-Santa, looking good. This man started the season in fine form, and now he's come back just at the right time.
But normally for the last 2 or 3 years, Della-Santa has had a great early season. He kind of goes away then for the middle of the season. You never see him again. And all of a sudden, he comes back then at San Sebastian and sometimes in the Leeds Classic. But they're about the only race to see him in, really. He's been an incredible rider for the start of the year, but he's almost a minute down now on the Las Cuevas, so there's still a long way to go now to the top of the hill. So if he can catch him before the top, maybe he can get down the far side with him, although Della-Santa is not a great descender, I must say, because he's has been known to, I've seen him actually being dropped on the descents.
And here is the leader at the moment, De Las Cuevas. Della-Santa trying to come across to him.
He's giving some effort. To look at the Las Cuevas. He's going as if there's no tomorrow. He's going as if the finish is on top of this hill. So there's hope now. He had a good look at the road book and knows that there's still 20 kilometers from the top, because every time we see him on the screen here, he's really giving it everything.
And 238 kilometers in all to be covered. The climb of the Yeshkabel comes after 206 kilometers here. Della-Santa, another extremely good climber, 54 seconds back on De Las Cuevas. You can see him up that long climb into the distance, and of course that little group behind him can spot this fellow too. He had a quick look back there to see what's going on. That is Faresin just moving away off the front there for the Lampre team. Finished second last year in the San Sebastian Classic. Can't see his team leader Fondrest at the moment, but no doubt he's found the race a bit tough for him now. Wishing the best of luck on toward the back end of the season, because Fondrest certainly, having had those problems, now looking towards the World Championship as his next target. But this man looking for success today. He really has with that Burgos. I mean, that race he was just unbeatable, wasn't he?
He was. Like, he went into it hoping to maybe win a stage, hoping to try and ride himself in. And he ended up winning 2 stages and winning the overall by over a minute and a half by Cubino. Cubino rode it to and finished it to, so he was obviously in great condition. So for De Las Cuevas to come out and beat Cubino in the overall classification in the Tour de Burgos, it means that he was really looking after himself since he abandoned the Tour de France.
Just soak in this atmosphere, you viewers, at the moment. The Spanish have turned out in large numbers. The sun is beating down. The whole of Europe's been enjoying a beautiful summer, and the sun has really affected these riders. They've been suffering in the Tour de France with terrible problems of dehydration, but they've all bounced back now. The stamina always amazes me of these top bike riders, how they can suddenly, after just a few days rest, get back and ride like this. And look at this man.
But you never see very many fast bike riders, and the simple reason is because they're always on the road. Like De Las Cuevas, I know, after the Tour de France did not ride too many criteriums because he wanted to try and put the clock straight, as you call it, to say. But everyone was saying that he wouldn't be able to have a good end of season after stopping the Tour de France, and he got a bit of publicity after the Tour finished, saying that, well, he shouldn't have stopped and he was weak. He should have been stronger than he was and what have you. So he wants to show now that, well, he did stop it because of illness, and not because he was weak and because he didn't feel like going on.
Getting towards the top of the climb now. You can see down there some white marks of previous races have gone over here. This is a very famous race on the calendar in Spain. Of course, I remember the Tour de France a couple of years went over this one as well,
exactly,
didn't it?
It did, yeah. It over actually, was it last year? No, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
2 years ago went over this, all right. And it was always the very same result. The group always stays together to the foot of it, and then as the foot of it's very, very steep, it's the smithereens, and the groups go over the top in 1s and 2s, and then at the descent then normally regroups.
Well, I've got the watch running on the climb. Looking back down, that's the chasing pack. One man wedged between the chasing group and the leader, De Las Cuevas. This is Della-Santa, looking very, very calm indeed, climbing very well indeed. This is a particular gift, isn't it, to be able to go up like this? But what is going to be like going down the other side?
Yeah, well, just to put you in the picture, normally the lads riding the Yeshkabel would normally have a 41.20 on the back. Normally it's not a very, very steep hill. The steepest part is 9%, but 9% is only for about a kilometre on the foot of it. So normally it levels off then. So most riders will be using a 41.18, 19 on the hill itself. So it's not really a climber's hill. It's a hill for a rider like Della-Santa.
54 seconds is the gap back to Della-Santa from De Las Cuevas. De Las Cuevas seems to be opening up a gap all the way up to the climb. And now the main pack coming through. Let's see what their little gap back is as well. And there, another fragmented group as well. They're climbing up in dribs and drabs. but usually a group like this can regroup on the bay back down. The question is, can De Las Cuevas stay away from this little lot? Look at the rest of them coming over. It's absolutely totally fragmented, isn't it?
The group, this happens every year. Every time we go over the Esquibel, it doesn't seem a hard hill, but yet when you get to the top, there's an awful amount of damage done. You have groups of normally 1 or 2 riders in the front, and a group of 5, a group of 10, a group of 5, another group of 10, and then you've got a big bunch comes in. So for some incredible reason, they all come together on the descent.
And this little group coming through now is at 1 minute and 44 seconds down, and there is Indurain's leading him up, powering his way across the line, and the rest now trying to hold on. So the gap, 1 minute and 40 odd seconds between Indurain and the leader, but De La-Santa is closing up. We're going to take a short break, come back for more action. Welcome back then, just inside 10 kilometres to go in the San Sebastian Classic, 238 kilometres in all. This man who set the race alight when he went up the Esquibel broke away from the main field, went over the top of the climb, 55 seconds ahead of De La-Santa, 125 on the main peloton. But on the descent, Lance Armstrong, you're looking at him now, closed up on De La-Santa, and the two working hard to try and cut the gap between them and De Las Cuevas. The main bunch still hovering just about 10 seconds behind these two riders. They could still be caught on their way in because it's not down flat all the way. This is a very interesting run into the finish.
It is. There's still one little hill just after this hotel. Actually, there's still one little kind of steep hill. It's not very long, but it's about 1.5 kilometres long. But if Lance Armstrong is feeling strong enough, he could maybe try and get away. But at the moment, neither one of them seems to be very strong at the moment. They just seem to be happy to be riding along because De Las Cuevas, since he went away, he's opened up gradually, kilometre after kilometre. So either the two of them cannot get on together, or the two of them are not going very well.
It also looks disjointed, this chase. I don't see any sort of combination of teams. That hill seems to have blasted them all out, so then 1s and 2s.
It is, yeah. It's some incredible reason, you know. That's modern cycling, you know. It's like I know that I don't know why these boys here haven't really put the head down since they got away either. They should have been, I thought, riding for first place, where they seem to be riding here for second place. And the main group behind them, they seem to have no sprinters in, nobody seems to really kind of trying to organise the chase, because they were only 25 seconds down on this group going over the top of the hill, so it's not a lot. So, but you know, the gap has got to 127 between De Las Cuevas and De La-Santa, so he's taken nearly 40 seconds out from since the top of the hill, which is not normal.
And he really is riding in toward the finish, this Frenchman with a Spanish-sounding name who rode last year with the Benesto team, went off to Castorama, and now he's showing on Spanish soil what a great rider is. These two then, De La-Santa on the front, Armstrong just behind him, and the main pack some way back. Well, a lot of tactics going on behind there, because the man who leads in the World Cup at the moment, Andrei Tchmil, is in that main group. We've seen him in the white jersey with the rainbow stripes running down. He's leading the World Cup series at the moment. And here, the world champion, we're only just about 3 weeks away from the World Championships in Sicily. We're going to bring you on Eurosport the track racing as well, early morning, late evening, and then we're going to show you the road racing as well. But the group here just don't seem to be too bothered at all, and I think unless something really happens now, we could have already seen first, second and third, but you never know in bike racing at the moment. But nobody's jumping around, they're just sitting in there, maybe looking for 4th and 5th place. That's crazy.
It is, yeah. It's everyone just seems to be happy to ride along. There's Tchmil, with 6 Tchmil's white jersey there just before he got out of the picture.
There he is.
Here he is here on the left-hand side of the screen, and that's the World Cup leaders jersey. So you see the riders here. It's a group of about 25-30 riders, but nobody really wants to, even more, 35 riders maybe, nobody really wants to get to organise the chase. There's riders attacking here and there. This is where the road starts to go up a small bit here again now, but if you see here, no one really wants to take over the chase. So I'd say now with this situation, we'll surely find De Las Cuevas, De La-Santa and Armstrong going to the finish. In what order we don't know, but maybe De Las Cuevas might be caught, because he seems to be giving out an awful lot of energy. He's really riding very hard, but at the same time 125 is an awful lot to get back on a rider that's going well like De Las Cuevas is at the moment.
Well, there he is then, and Tchmil protecting his jersey and watching De Las Cuevas. Let me put you in the picture about the World Cup if you haven't seen our earlier rounds. Andrei Tchmil was 9th in the Milan-San Remo. In the Tour of Flanders, he finished 3rd. On the Paris-Roubaix, he rode out the victor under diabolical conditions. And then in the Liège-Bastogne-Liège, he was 11th. And the Amstel Gold, he finished in 11th place. Those are the previous rounds of the World Cup. This man here hasn't so far, looking down my notes, actually scored any points at all in the World Cup. And as we go back to the second and third riders on the road at the moment, then they're not going to either trouble Tchmil. Tchmil had 97 points going into the round today. Jan Museo, who is riding, but he's not in that front group as far as we can see, was just 7 points behind him in second place. Giorgio Furlan, who won the Milan San Remo, is third with 75 points. He certainly is there at the moment, so I think a lot of tactical manoeuvring going on now to try and protect their positions in the overall World Cup, rather than look at what might be a victory in a classic as this one as well. Gianni Bugno is riding in the race today. He won the Tour of Flanders. He's 5th overall in the World Cup. And nice to see there with the Escudai. See those red flashes on the white jersey with the green shoulders. We don't see them very often, but they are virtually the Basque national team. All of those riders come from the Basque area where this race is being held today. And just looking down in there at the moment, we had a good chance of seeing one of their riders, led by Pello Ruiz-Cabestany, who's been a good old season campaigner. And it's nice to see the Basque team here being supported by local industry. And virtually, they say it's the only national pro team in the world.
Well, the Basque region is a great cycling part of Spain. I know anytime I've ridden a race down there, you'd always get incredible turnouts. And it's amazing that there's one other race here tomorrow actually in San Sebastian. It's about 30 kilometers away from San Sebastian. There's another, like a Spanish Clásica that's on. And there's so many people out on the road today, but there'll be as many and more people out tomorrow on the road. And it's 2 days, like 2 different races. Like it's, you get an incredible turnouts and incredible interest for the Basque race. Look at De Las Cuevas here again. Every time he comes on screen, he just kind of has a grin on his face. His glasses up around on his forehead, and
one day he might wear them over his eyes.
Yeah, maybe, but he's putting himself under some punishment here. He's cruising away from the group behind him, and ever since he got away on Jesse Gibella, I had the feeling that he was maybe going to ride himself into the ground and maybe not make the finish, because after Jesse Gibella there was 2 hills to come, whereas now he's sailing home now. The hills are finished now. He's coming down to San Sebastian.
It's interesting. He seems to have quite a small frame with a lot of head stem sticking out, a lot of saddle sticking out as well. So he's a very flat rider, more like a pursuit in his position.
He is. He's a very. Look at his position. It's very, very far back. He's very, very long thighs. Look at his thigh here. He's very, very long thighs. So his position in the saddle is very, very far back. As most of Cyril Guimara's team do have their saddle very far back anyway, for aerodynamic reasons. And as you see here, Armstrong getting some advice from his team director sportif here, probably saying to him, well, they're too far down here, got to go for second place.
Just a point here, Stephen. I've always felt that the lads riding 74 power over these upright frames, and here we see a much more relaxed seat angle. I felt they were all going too far forward. I know the roads are smoother now, and maybe shorten the frame, make it lively, but a lot of the top stars do seem to sit a bit further back than I see riders in England.
Well, most of the riders with Cyril Guimard, if you're watching, they always have the saddle is very, very far back, and they always ride very long cranks at the same time. They always ride very small frames and very long stems. So I personally think it's exaggerated in one way because they're too far back, and I think it shows as well, because a lot of Cyril Guimard's riders, they often have tendonitis in the knees or the Achilles tendon, and I think it's because they push big gears and they're too far back over the bottom bracket.
Well, there we are. There speaks the master, Stephen Roche. Once again, happy to have him alongside myself here in the commentary box, covering this great race, San Sebastian Classic. It's only 14th issue, and we were talking about Stephen was about the Basque and their bicycle racing. Moreno Larreta from the Basque country has won this race 3 years, 1981, 1982 and 1987. It's great to see him out on the Tour de France, helping Spanish television with his succinct comments, because he's a man who rode the 3 tours, the one of Spain, Italy and France, 3 years in succession. He also won this race 3 times as well. Claudio Chiappucci was the winner last year. Alcala the year before that. Bugno the year before that. I can look back to 1981, and Graham Jones of Great Britain was in second spot then. And if we look also back to the time in 1990 when Indurain won it, the great Sean Kelly finished in 3rd spot. And I think looking down the list last year, Stephen, I had a note where you finished somewhere. You were 29th.
Well,
I don't want to remind you about that. Yeah. You're only 47 seconds down, by the way. Yeah. I mean, you're much closer than that lot to this fella.
Yeah, but last year Chiappucci won. Yeah. So I launched actually Chiappucci when he went away. When he went away, then there was a bit of group of riders behind him, so that they wouldn't get away after Chiappucci. I had to keep chasing everybody down. So of course, when I got to the finish myself, I just kind of rolled over the line. but I was never a great classic rider. The only classic I ever really rode well in was Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Tour de Lombardie, and sometimes Milan-San Remo. But I was never really a great classic rider because my sprint was never good enough.
Well, it was a close call last year. Chiappucci came in just 1 second ahead of Faresin. Volpi was behind them some 22 seconds in arrears, and then we hope mad gallop of riders came 6 down, just about 30-odd seconds behind. So it was a close call last year, but at the moment then, if you just switched on San Sebastian Classic, at the moment De Las Cuevas has got a comfortable lead near about 1.5 minutes over those 2 riders we've just seen on our screen, and both Armstrong and De La-Santa seem to be disinterested in anything else but second place. Amazing. This is a sort of part of the course. They should be powering along.
It should be, and also like it doesn't matter how hard De La-Santa's rode into the finish, and Armstrong, because Armstrong was by far the fastest finisher. Like even if he rides into the finish on his knees, he would beat De La-Santa in the sprint. So I would have thought that he would have been riding much harder from the top of the hill into the finish. Like he did attack from the top of the hill to get across to De Las Cuevas, and why should he stop when he gets to De La-Santa's? Like I thought he would have been, when he got across to De La-Santa, he would have buried himself again and did his best to get across to the De Las Cuevas, because now he's riding for second place.
And there he is then, getting in towards the 1 kilometre sign shortly to come. We saw the banner further down the road there, the one J&B, that rare whiskey, as part of the sponsors of the race today. And they now, the crowd here, they can see that this one man looks like he's going there. That's the 1 kilometre just ahead of him now. A nice flat run into the finish, almost a ceremonial, I won't say lap of honour, but it's a fairly easy ride in for him. But he's still actually riding himself in the ground. He doesn't stop, does he?
He doesn't, no. We haven't actually got a latest time check from the group, but I say it should be over a minute down now. So normally it's sailing home from now, like. But it'd be a great win for the Castorama team, because Cyril Guimard, the Castorama manager, has not got a contract signed up for next year for the team. Castorama have said that if you don't find a sponsor, we will come along with you, but please try and find another sponsor. So it'll be some help to him now.
Well, through the heat haze, over 30 degrees, absolutely now down come the sunglasses. He comes in towards the finish, and the reflected glory in his glasses of that finishing straight, it'll be showing back on the mirror image of the spectators, the finish banner for De Las Cuevas, the shimmering heat. Then Castorama have got what they set out to get. Many teams still looking for sponsorship money for next year. Many riders looking as well for contracts. There's a lot of things up in the air. Rumours are flying around as to who will get sponsored and who won't next year. But no doubt about De Las Cuevas has staked his claim for a place in whatever team, because this man really has ridden his heart out today, and he's come on to great form, just the right time. We've still got a lot of races yet to come. Leeds Classic next week, Tour, the Championship of Zurich yet to come, the World Championship yet to come. Some of these riders really are going to, I think we're in for a very good end of the season.
There's some great racing to come out of this, so going to see some great tactical efforts, tactical movements as well from the likes of Tchmil, Fonriers, and now that De Las Cuevas now is coming into the front, it'll be a great end of the season, I think.
And as he crossed the line and crossed himself, we put the watch on to see what that gap was back to De La-Santa and Armstrong. They're not in sight at all, and that's an amazing one man who took off on the climb of the Escabel with some 30-odd kilometres to go to finish, and these two riders could not catch him. They're down alongside the seafront here. It's a marvellous beach, beautiful town right alongside the beach, beautiful port as it is, and the shimmering heat then of these two chasers. Armstrong in the World Championship jersey. He's not got long to go now, just about 3 weeks before he'll be contesting that one in Sicily, where by all accounts the sun is going to be just like this. So he's obviously enjoyed the heat, but look at the way the bunch is coming up at him now. Well, they were hanging about, and we wonder why they weren't going for first place. They might even lose second and third at this rate of knots. That could be disaster.
It could be. I can tell you, I wouldn't fancy bringing their shoes now, but I'm sure Armstrong will have to go for an early sprint. But here you see Poulnikov, is it coming through?
Yes.
In the motorbikes here, Poulnikov coming through, so
they can't see him either. They look back. He's hidden.
All they can see is the motorbikes. I remember Liège-Bastogne-Liège. Hey, don't talk about that.
You look back and saw motorbikes, didn't you? Yeah. And so these two then, De La-Santa and Armstrong, pulling up, coming up very quickly indeed. Well, they don't know he's there at the moment. They still can't see him, and if they start cat and mousing around, we can have a change for second place that they thought was stitched up in there. You can see the gap on the top of your screen now. Armstrong launches that sizzling sprint he's got, and De La-Santa is trying to recover and get on his wheel, but he's not going to do it. And De La-Santa now can see Poulnikov coming up. Armstrong second, De La-Santa in third spot.
Still, it's a great place for Armstrong, second place, but I think he should have maybe giving a little bit more maybe. And
let's see the run sprint then coming up, and and they're all over the place, looking down there in the centre. Well, I think on the right side, it might have been like Tchmil actually coming across the line. We'll wait and see the official confirmation on that one then. But well, that was a tremendous closing few kilometres, and those second and third riders could really have been caught. San Sebastian shimmering in the heat. Seeing yet again a great race. This race then dates back to 1981 when Lejarreta won the first one. Now De Las Cuevas' name goes on the list, the roll call of honour. Armstrong, Della-Santa, and it was Tchmil who came across the line in fifth spot. So no doubt about Tchmil will have kept his leader's jersey in the World Cup Series, heading off to the next round, which will be on Sunday week in Leeds in England. We're going to cover that one as well for you. Another look then back at De Las Cuevas, who today scored a fine victory for himself and Castorama. I'm looking forward to Leeds Classic. That'll be on Sunday week. I hope that you good people out there will join us on that next round in the World Cup. It looks a cracking field as well. Next week is a Kellogg's race as well, and some of that will be on Eurosport News. So follow that race with Eurosport. From Stephen Roche, myself, David Duffield. Bye-bye.